He didn't do the pledge last meeting.
Violation of Open Meetings Act, didn't say the pledge. All right, we'll go ahead and take roll call. Ryan Haney.
Here.
Stephen Buck.
Here.
Pastor Ray Douglas.
Here.
All right. And then if you want to give the pledge.
Sure. Yeah, so if we would, please rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As I was elected chairperson of the last committee meeting, I think that I will continue in that role until this committee establishes its duly elected chair and vice chair. Important to read into the public record that and to confirm that this meeting was posted in accordance with the state requirements for posting. We had that affirmation. Was there any public comment offered for this committee meeting? Seeing no public comment, I would ask each of the members of this committee to introduce themselves, please. We'll begin with you, Mr. Haney.
Ryan Haney from the Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs.
Ray Douglas.
And Stephen Buck. The next item on our agenda is a discussion item to elect the chair and vice chair of the Operations Subcommittee of the Oklahoma County Criminal Justice Authority Citizens Advisory Board with possible action as desired by the board members. I would open up the floor for nominations for the position of committee chair.
I would nominate Ryan Haney.
I would second the nomination if Mr. Haney is agreeable.
I am.
Any discussion? If none, please call the roll.
Ryan Haney.
Yes.
Stephen Buck.
Yes.
Pastor Ray Douglas.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And Mr. Haney, I will yield the chair to you.
Okay. I'll now open the floor up to nominations for vice chair, and I'll go ahead and get the ball rolling by nominating Pastor Douglas,
And I would second that.
if he's willing.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Ryan Haney.
Yes.
Stephen Buck.
Yes.
Pastor Ray Douglas.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, then we'll move on to action item number 4 to discuss possible action to establish time and day and location for the next operations subcommittee of the Oklahoma County Criminal Justice Authority Advisory Board meeting and discussion of Open Meeting Act requirements. Mr. Buck, do you have something on times?
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that I explored is the current posted times between this and the previous subcommittee is a relatively lengthy set. I believe it's at an hour and 30 minutes, correct? That is how this was originally scheduled. I had a chance to reach out to council between meetings. The Open Meeting Act is very clear as you have to state a public starting time, but periodically meetings might run, a previous meeting might run long past the starting time of the following meeting. But I use as an example, I know that at least one of the committee operations here within the county, the first committee has a start time of 9, the second committee 9:30. But with some frequency, there might be a little bit of bleed over from the first meeting into the second meeting's time. But the general public knows a specific time which they would gather. So what I might offer is, as part of this discussion, we might shrink the amount of time that's currently set. The three of us serve on both of these subcommittees that meet back to back.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to bring up on the policies and procedures subcommittee, we talked about meeting quarterly on August 17th and November 16th. Would this subcommittee, is there any discussion on whether this subcommittee should also abide by those same times? And with Mr. Buck's suggestion that maybe we move up the time of this scheduled subcommittee meeting?
I would make the motion that we meet quarterly and set the times or the dates of August 17th and November 16th and the time is 10 minutes after the adjournment of the previous meeting.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, may I, since I had a chance to visit with
Please.
council? I apologize. We have to set a specific time for convening. We can't use that time lapse. So we would have to say convene at 3 or something specific like that.
And if it bleeds over, that's not a big deal. But what we can't do is say 10 minutes after adjournment of the next or the previous meeting.
2:30. So
Okay.
the other one's at 2:15, and so we could set 2:30, and there's not a stipulation that we can't go over.
I'm not council. I would look to county staff for that clarification.
Yeah, so there's even one meeting we have set just 5 minutes after another. Now it always runs over, but the expectation is just that those two will run together. So you can set it for 2:20.
I'll amend my motion and set that for 2:30.
Okay, we have a motion that we meet quarterly. That the next meeting would be August 17th, 2022, with another meeting on November 16th at 2022. Both of those to begin at 2:30.
I second the pastor's motion.
Any discussion? Call it roll.
Stephen Buck,
Yes.
Pastor Ray Douglas,
Yes.
Brian Haney.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Agenda item number 4, discussion and possible action to establish the time. Oh, wait, that's the one we just did. Sorry. Agenda item number 5, discussion and possible action regarding the purpose and function of the Oklahoma Operations Subcommittee of the County Criminal Justice Authority Citizens Advisory Board. Just like Mr. Buck did earlier, my thought is that we could have kind of an open dialogue and talk about what we think this subcommittee might be discussing and considering over the coming months. So I don't know if there's Pastor Douglas mentioned last time that we should get the current policies and procedures. I don't know if there's any way for us to get current operations other than to tour the facility, ask Director Williams to come and answer questions that we might have about the operations. But I'm happy to reach out to Director Williams and see if there are some sort of handbook or something along those lines that might pertain to the operations of the jail.
I'm certainly supportive of that. One thing too, if I might, Chairman, is in thinking through this space and operations, it occurs to me that there may be both national and regional accreditation bodies that we may or may not have affiliation with, and accreditation standards may help us understand some of the operational questions before the county, before the detention center. So if in the interim we could ask Director Williams about what credentialing bodies may help us inform on what represents operational excellence.
Cool. Yeah, I'm happy to reach out to Director Williams about that. Any other discussion on that agenda item?
I have none.
Okay. We don't need a motion on anything, right? We're just discussing stuff. All right, cool. Well, then we'll move on to agenda item number 6. Discussion and possible action regarding appointment of additional members to the subcommittee, qualifications, manner, and timing of appointment. I think similar to the last meeting, the thought here is just that maybe we can discuss who we would like to add to the subcommittee, if we want to add anyone to the subcommittee. I'll give you my thoughts, and then please feel free to we'll open it for discussion. But given that this is a body that advises another body that advises another body, I feel like we're just adding to the bureaucracy by adding more voting members. I'm with the other members of the board that inviting lived experiences to come and talk and give us their thoughts on where we need to be and what changes would be good to the operations of the jail is vital and very important. But I don't see the point, or I don't see a big value add to adding a voting member. But that's one person's opinion, and I'm happy to hear from the rest of the board on that, or the subcommittee on that.
I'm in agreement with you, Mr. Chairman. I think that we do need to get information from other people, subject matter experts, lived experience, etc. But I don't know if there's a gain for us or anyone else by making them a voting member.
And I would just further, as a matter of differentiation, if you will, with a subcommittee of 3 and with the overall policy that was promulgated by the full CAB, the quorum expectations that are built into the subcommittee process could potentially make achieving future quorum very difficult with the addition of any additional voices. So I think a stated priority of inviting content experts to share with us, but I think for making sure we have a quorum that is reachable to promulgate recommendations to the CAB, I would concur with the spirit of the conversation the two of you have led.
I'm glad you added that because I was going to add that if you didn't. I'll move that, at least for the time being, we will not take any action items on appointing other members of this subcommittee, but I don't think that precludes us from doing so in the future. Is that a good motion?
Are you able to translate that into something for the minutes, right? Yeah. You need a second? Go ahead.
I second that.
Okay, well, that brings us to action item number 7, adjournment. Oh, I'm sorry.
Stephen Buck,
Yes.
Pastor Ray Douglas,
Yes.
Ryan Haney.
Yes.
Motion passes.
It's so confusing. There's 3 of us. So once you move in second. All right, now action item number 7, adjournment. I move to adjourn. Can I do that as chair?
Second.
All right. Stephen Buck,
Yes.